This week on the Uplevel Dairy Podcast, we're bringing you our breakout session from the Central Plains Dairy Expo for a real, unfiltered conversation with dairy's rising leaders. From coming back to the farm, to carving their own paths, to earning respect and finding their voices, this is a must-listen-to conversation not only for the next generation, but for senior leaders looking to better understand, develop, and lead them. We are proud to partner with Central Plains Dairy Expo to feature these four panelists: Jacob Wegg, Emma Brockshus, Emmett Meissner, and Chelsea Abbott. Hear it straight from these rising leaders today on the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. Welcome to the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. This is the podcast for dairy producers and professionals who are committed to moving our industry forward. I'm Peggy Coffeen, and each week we bring you the leaders, the lessons, and real-world stories from the people who have built the dairy business we know today and those who are shaping its future. Join us on the journey by following Uplevel Dairy on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and subscribe at upleveldairy.com to get new episodes and our Dairy Insights blogs right in your inbox.
Welcome to our Dairy's Rising Leaders panel, the conversations we have to have. And I have four talented panelists joining us today. And so I'm going to give each of them a moment to introduce themselves, tell a little bit about their current role, their previous roles before where they're at today, and a little bit about their backgrounds as well. And so I'm going to pass the mic over to Mr. Jacob White to get us started.
My name is Jacob Wegg. I am from Worthington, Minnesota, which is about an hour east of here. I farm with my uncles and my dad side by side. As of a year ago, prior to that, I did nutrition consulting for a company called Big Gain. I really enjoyed that. It was just getting the traction underneath me. And then came the opportunity to come back, and that was kind of always a dream of mine to do that. So I thought, well, take the step of courage and do that. Prior to that, I have a bachelor's degree in dairy science from South Dakota State University. And looking forward to the conversation today.
My name is Emma Brockshus, and I farm with my dad and my grandpa in Ocheyedan, Iowa, which is just south of Worthington. And my role is pretty much the herdsman on the farm, and before that, I was in high school. So I chose not to do any college or anything like that. So I graduated early my senior year and went right back to the farm to work with Dad and Grandpa. So.
My name is Emmett Meissner. I'm from Normie Lane Farms in Chile, Wisconsin. I'm fourth generation there with my dad and probably soon to be brother. Went to Western Tech, did a 2-year degree in agribusiness in La Crosse, Wisconsin. From there, I went down to New Mexico. Did a dairy short course called the U.S. Dairy Education and Training Consortium, which was a really cool thing. And then I actually moved out to North Dakota, where I worked at a beef and buffalo ranch for a while for about a year before coming back to the farm. I've been back about 2.5 years now, and my main role is young stock manager, and do work with just young calves and heifers, and I still do a little bit of everything, but I guess that's where most of my time is spent.
And I'm Chelsea Abbott. I grew up in northern Vermont with some Holstein show cows. It's where my interest in reproduction and genetics started. So I went to Virginia Tech and got a degree in dairy science, went to University of Tennessee, had my master's in dairy reproduction. I worked as a consultant for a bull stud for a few years out of school, had a slight midlife crisis, moved to Montana, worked on a dude ranch out there for what I thought was going to be one summer. That was 6 years ago. I moved out there and worked seasonally. I worked for the dude ranch for an outfitter, doing backcountry trips for a while. Did seasonal work through the fall, everything from tapping maple trees back in Vermont, equine assisted therapy down in Florida. I bumped chairs at a ski lodge for a little while one winter, kind of all over the place. 2 years ago, I decided I needed a real job again. Ova was nice enough to hire me and let me stay in Montana and continue to work with dairy cows, even though there's no dairy cows in Montana. And so I'm now the dairy consultant for Ova, and actually in a few weeks transitioning into managing a dude ranch that my family was fortunate enough to purchase out there. So kind of all over the place and very different paths than these guys.
The questions that I'm going to be asking our group are actually questions that I had challenged them to generate themselves. And I asked them, what are the biggest challenges you face? What do you wish that someone would have told you in the last 5 or 7 years of your own journey? And so that's what's driving our conversation, but feel free to raise a hand and ask some of the questions you have too. And so one of the questions that came from our group that we're going to be addressing right now, it was for those of you that have come back to the farm as a young person. How have you integrated into the operation when there's a seasoned and tenured team that's already in place? Emmett, do you want to lead?
So this is especially true for me. I left the farm for 3 to 4 years between college and other stuff, working elsewhere, different programs. So, while I was gone, the farm ran like a well-oiled machine, or as best it could. And when I came back, it did the same thing. So I wasn't coming back to fill an immediate role. There wasn't an empty spot waiting for me. It was more so, I obviously knew this is what I wanted to do, but how can I add the most value, and how can I not just be the boss's son? That was something that I thought about a lot, right? And I think it's important to remember that, even if you are family, even if you are, the next generation, you are still the new guy, and you're still maybe not necessarily, but you're the low guy in the totem pole. And I think it's really important to, you have to earn the respect of your team first. You don't just get any because of your last name type of thing. But yeah, that was something that I tried really hard to do, was not just, was come in and figure out where I could add the most value. It worked out in my favor a little bit. Shortly after I came back, we acquired our second dairy site, which was a couple hours away, which meant our herdsmen had a lot more responsibility on the herd side of things with the extra site. So that left an opening for me a little bit. I took over all of his young stock duties, so it was a really good way to kind of ease into it. But before that, I kind of just bounced around, and I worked with a couple months in this department, and then in here, and worked with all the different managers. But I think it's really important for young people to make sure that you can you have to earn the respect of your team first before you just jump right into it.
And then I'm going to ask you a question to build off of that. So you talked about working with some of the different teams within the farm. Now, did you and your dad or anyone else sit down and structure like a certain program, or like this many weeks we'll put you here or there, or how did you plan for this to be successful for you?
Yeah, kind of. It's a little bit tough, because it's different seasons, different things are more busy. But we kind of set that, try to do 3 to 4 weeks in each department. I really enjoyed that. I like having the, not that I'm an expert in any of them, but I like kind of knowing what's going on in a little bit more detail in all the different areas. So I think we did, roughly 3 to 4 weeks in every department. It got, obviously in the spring, in summer, it was leaned a lot heavier toward the field stuff. And in the winter, it was easier to do the cow stuff. But yeah, we tried not to just wing it, because then it gets sloppy and it's easy to fall off track. And there's obviously always things to do, right? There's always ways to stay busy, and you can always fill your time with different tasks. But if having a structure, at least trying to follow a plan, definitely will help, because it's pretty easy just to get busy doing farm stuff.
Emma, for you, coming right back to the dairy from school, how did this go for you?
I never really left, but my job definitely changed. Working through high school, when we had calves, I was taking care of calves, I was scraping, I was milking, I was doing all of that kind of work just to kind of be making some money, but have some structured hours on the weekends while I was in school. And then when I graduated, they said, we're going to give you 1 week, because I graduated in December. So they said, when Christmas break is over for everybody else, you're going to start working. And I said, okay. And I kind of integrated into the herdsman role. My grandpa was the main herdsman, so he just kind of, tried to teach me everything he knows, but he's not a very great teacher, but I'm allowed to say that because he's not here. He just says...
He's recorded it.
If he ever finds it. No, it was more of a, hey, for the first 2 weeks, why don't you just follow me around and try to figure out what I'm doing, which sometimes he talks loud enough, and sometimes I'm like, what are you saying? Like, what are you trying to tell me to do here? So that was probably one of the hardest things, was integrating and getting all the information that I needed out of him. But other than that, like just being on the farm, working with Dad and Grandpa, there's great times and there's some stressful times. But integrating me in kind of happened by, saying it's time to get off your butt. It's time to learn the things. If you have questions, ask. And my dad's sitting right back there, but he always says, education is expensive no matter how you get it. So you'll learn how to take care of cows, and if you kill one, there's the price. And if you go to college, you pay for the education that way too.
That's the quote of the day. Way to go, Dad. Emma, thank you for that. And Jacob, you were in industry and then came back to a dairy that was running and operating. So what was that like for you integrating back into your family farm?
Kind of what makes it a little unique is, so I did nutrition consulting, and I'd worked with my uncles or my family's farm prior to coming back. So I kind of knew how the system worked, how it operated, what the opportunities, what the challenges were. But when you're in the industry role, you just tell them what to do. And like, you're not involved in, okay, this is the boots on the ground, make sure it gets done, and the challenges that go with that. So kind of what Emmett says, like, yeah, you got to put in the work and put in the sweat equity and get those guys to buy into your program, why we do what we do. It's not easy. It takes time and a lot of effort, intentional effort that way. So that's one half of the answer. The other half is, so we started raising our young stock on farm in the last 3-4 months. And when I was doing nutrition consulting, I primarily focused on calves as well. So once again, I was the one that was, helping these farms. We have this bottleneck, this is how we fix it. Okay, you have sick calves. It's more of the emotional tie that it's not just a number that comes across, say, this is your death loss. Now it's, okay, what are we gonna do about it? So it's been a good but challenging transition, and I've enjoyed it.
When it comes to communicating in this different ways on your own operation, what did work well? What was maybe a strategy or tactic that you found did help to be able to communicate those ideas and drive some positive change?
Speaking Spanish is a must. I wouldn't say I'm fluent, but I can maybe give instruction better than what I can take it. And maybe they don't understand my instructions through my Spanglish, but no. Understanding their culture, understanding where they come from. They have a family life too, and they come to work and show up, and understanding where they come from and helping them along the way.
How did you figure it out? Like, is it just, did you do one-on-ones? Is it just more shoulder time with people? How'd you get to know your team better?
Working alongside them, showing that, hey, I'm willing to do the hard work with you. I'm not just gonna stand and oversee and tell you what to do. I have a 3-year-old at home, and his number one question is why. And I'm sure for the parents, they understand, they get sick of that why. Why we gotta do this, why we gotta do that. So I take that to work and I say, this is why we do what we do. And helping them buy into it, that's in Spanish has helped me.
This leads up to another question that, again, came from our group up here. And it's so, have any of you ever had an experience where you had a really great idea that you wanted to bring to the table? Right? Yeah, big idea. Anybody ever had someone in your organization or in your family or farm have a big, bright idea as a young person that they wanted to bring forward? Yes. And how did that go? Sometimes well, sometimes maybe challenging. So what we're getting at in this question is, what's a story that each of you can share about a time when you had to learn how to assert yourself and your big, bright, new, shiny ideas as a young person sitting at the table with either the farm team or perhaps your colleagues in the industry? How did you communicate those ideas? How did you get those things across? Or maybe was there a time when it didn't go so well? So a story that each of you could share on that.
Oh boy. I would say one of my big bright ideas that I can't take full credit for, because it was kind of me and my dad, was we decided to put in 4 Lely robots. And we were kind of on the fence, and my dad's like, well, what do you think? And I was still in high school at the time. I had a couple semesters left, and he was like, oh, what do you think? And I'm like, well, I think robots are cool. Like, I think this could work. And he's like, I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know how the cows are going to handle it. And we got to pick the cows because we'll be doing our old parlor and our robots. And I said, well, we can just learn the computer side. And my grandpa said, if you decide to do that, I don't want to know anything about those with robots. He said, I'll stick with the parlor. You people can learn the robots. And unfortunately, he got to play with the robots last night, it sounds like. But that was one that I would say for the most part we think went really well. But right at the beginning, we thought, why did we do this? And my dad would really like to say, how are you feeling about your idea right now when we were pushing cows 24 hours a day? And I said, well, I think in 3 months from now, we'll think it was a pretty good idea. And we've had them for 3 years, or in a couple of months, it'll be 3 years. And I think the robot plan went well.
Great story. Thank you, Eva. Emmett.
Big one for me would be we started selling direct-to-consumer beef. So that was something we've never done before. As I mentioned before, I worked out at a beef ranch in North Dakota, and so kind of took some things I learned there, brought them back. It's not nothing crazy, but I really enjoy it. I think it's a cool part of the industry, and that was something brand new that I started. So fortunately, I have a family and a team that's very accepting to new things, and a dad that's willing to try different things as well. So. Yeah, it's fun, but it's a lot more fun when you have the support and buy-in from the rest of your team.
Yeah, and I obviously didn't have a dairy to go back to, and so I guess I can kind of like shift the maybe question a little bit. And one of the first things that popped into my mind when Peggy was asking that question is probably the opposite of a bright idea that I had when I was first working as a consultant right out of school. Young female in the industry is not the easiest, and I think people a lot of times maybe question us a little bit more than others in the room. And I was with a colleague at a large dairy, and we were trying to sell them sex semen. And I had looked at their repro, I'd looked at their all their dairy comp backups and everything, and I didn't think it was a good fit for them. And I had told my colleague that, and they were in sales. I wasn't working off a commission, and we went through the meeting. I voiced my opinion. I told that dairy I didn't think it was a good idea at that time for them. I gave them some suggestions of what they probably could fix repro-wise, and so we left that meeting, didn't sell any sex semen. My colleague was not exactly impressed. A year later, we went back to that dairy and got all of their business with sex semen, a Sexton beef model. So I think that is all to say, like, you can have bright ideas, you can have ideas that, like, I guess just keep the business in mind. Like, don't do things selfishly, and in the end, that all works out. I think, like, we all can be modest. We all can say we don't know. It's not always the easiest answer, but I think that, like you said, you need to gain trust, whether it's with your dairy, with your own employees, or with people who you're hoping to have as clients, with colleagues. And I think, honesty is what gets you to that point.
So Chelsea, I got to ask, what was it like when you got back in the truck after that first visit?
They could not wait for me to get on the plane that evening. So, but no, and it wasn't like I didn't throw a bomb on the meeting, but like I think it gained trust with that colleague as well, because they saw that, yes, I do care about the well-being of the people that we're working with and working for. And I think, if you get blinders on, it's really easy to do. And the more we can just kind of be the best versions of ourselves, and that's going to make our business, our companies, our dairies, it all better.
And Jacob, do you have one to share as well?
So when I was in feed sales, it's selling ideas, selling product, and so on and so forth. So whether it be bringing new ideas, you really got to sell it. And what I mean by that is you have to buy into it yourself. Understand, okay, this new idea, this is why I believe in it. This is the return on it. One example, just probably in the last month or so, is I thought it was a good idea to put a new feed software in. And everybody in the room, my dad and uncle will laugh at me on this, but it was so much work. A great program, and I'll share that experience with anybody and everybody, but I knew that we needed to have better numbers on what our intake was, what our operator error was, so on. But I was helping teach employee who has a first grade Guatemalan education and is technologically illiterate and doesn't know how to, swipe from the corner of his phone to turn on his Bluetooth. So it was a great idea, still is a good idea, but I was feeding cows with him for 2 weeks and just troubleshooting, training, helping him. I regretted the decision for the first 2 weeks, but it's going better.
Here's a conversation that we had as a group before this panel, and it was around this topic of growth. And growth is such an interesting term, right? Growth can be personal, growth can be professional. And in the dairy business, for the longest time, we framed that word growth around size and scale and adding cows. And so the question that we're going to be addressing right now is, with the limitations that dairy now has, where maybe cow numbers aren't the avenue for everyone's growth, what does that word growth really mean to you? And you can take this from a personal standpoint or a professional standpoint, but what does growth mean to you? And Jacob, you got the mic, so you're on deck first for this one.
Yeah, I was the one that brought up this question in our pre-conference, but I don't have an answer. So in the last week, I've been asking other people what it means for them. What does growth mean to them? And I got 2 examples that I'm maybe going to glean from. We as farmers, we grow corn and soybeans. So what do we essentially do? We put seeds in the ground, we tend them, we nurture them, and ultimately we don't have any control over the growth. We can do our best, but we rely on our faith and our sustainability for that plant to mature and to grow. The other half of the answer is, I asked an older guy, what does growth look like to you? And he said, lifestyle, that I don't have to work on the weekends. I was kind of taken back from that, doesn't everybody like to work, but he's like, hey, I'm at a point in my career where I don't want more headaches. I don't need to have more cows. I want to, enjoy family time. So I'm still looking for a good answer, but I think those 2 resonate with me.
Thank you, Jacob. Emma.
I'm going to kind of take a different angle on it, and not necessarily farming, but when it comes to the farming, I would say kind of learning what you can and can't do. Because learning how to work on the robots is something that I never would have thought that I would have learned what all of those parts do. And I don't know all of them, but I'm getting better. Feeding cows is going to be something that, Dad, please don't ever ask me to feed cows, because that is not for me, and he likes to do that, so we let him do that. I think Dad would be more stressed out than me if he sent me to feed cows tomorrow. But on another topic of growth is, I think, more personal life, especially since I am fairly young. I'm just entering my 20s and I'm getting married in August. So that's kind of growth for me, is growing as a person in my relationship, planning on growing a family someday. That's kind of the more where I'm leaning toward when you talk about growth. Because I feel like my life and how I am as a person is not set in stone yet. There's plenty of things that could be changed or learned from to grow.
I think growth means, growing the people around you, but mostly growing yourself. I think growth means a lot. I think especially dairies, today everybody is good at milking cows. Everybody can put up, good feed, and everybody can keep cows comfortable. But not everybody is really good at growing themselves or trying to help the people around them. And I think that can definitely set you apart going forward in the future. And growth means, you yourself first, me. How can I build my self-discipline and my growth and seeing opportunities. I think you can find a lot more opportunities for growth when you're looking for them, when you're trying to find them rather than waiting for them to come to you. So I think growth has a lot to do with actually looking for it.
Okay, so Abbott, what are the ways that you are challenging yourself to personally grow? Like, what are the methods, tools, what things are helping you do just that?
Yeah, leaning on people better than you is a really big one. Trying to surround yourself with people that you can learn from, and trying to never be the smartest or the best or at anything in the room. Being active is a huge one for me. I love the gym. I love working out and doing personal health side of things. I think it all kind of comes together. When you start getting better at this, and I think when you start trying to get better at something, it kind of snowballs into the rest of your life, if that makes sense. So leaning on people better than you, staying healthy, eating good food, being active, and doing your best to learn from every opportunity.
I think growth for me is a couple things. The first one being having more confidence in what I do. So if when I started my job with Ova, I would walk onto a farm and this is my first sales role. I had been in consulting, I'd done a bunch of other random things in my life, but this is my first real sales role. And so I really had to remember to pack my big girl pants. I would say this farm is scary and I'm gonna have to pack my big girl pants and really go in there. And I didn't start with a lot of confidence, but to me, I have grown a lot in the past couple of years I feel like I can have those conversations with those larger dairies that I didn't come from in an area of the country that I didn't come from. And just growing that confidence and being able to feel like I belong in the room that I'm in. And then the second one being okay with not having a plan. I went to college and thought I had my whole life figured out and X, Y, and Z was all going to happen. And that went to crap pretty quickly. And I could not be happier about that. I love where I am in my life, and that has all come together because of all the things that I thought should happen didn't happen the way I thought they should, and being okay with that and rolling with the punches. And I think whether you're going back to a dairy and things aren't going exactly how you envisioned them when you were 15 and thought you were going to come back to the dairy, or when you were 40 and coming back to the dairy, it doesn't, things can ebb and flow and change, and being able to take the most and the best out of those changes and not let them hold you back, but allow them to let you get better and be the best at whatever those opportunities arise.
Now, Chelsea, what was the original plan? When you had all planned out and you thought it was going to unfold a certain path, what did that path look like? Because it did not include the dude ranch, right?
It absolutely did not. I did always want to work on a dude ranch. I also always wanted to be a dolphin trainer, which I still want to do, but that one probably is off the table. I probably am going to stay with the dude ranch dream. But no, when I was little, I wanted to be a vet. I started pre-vet in school, mostly because I didn't really know what else I wanted to do. As I was pre-vet, I thought I wanted to go down the track of doing OPUs. So it kind of is a little bit full circle that I ended up working for Ova in sales, because that is kind of why I started in the pre-vet route, is that I wanted to be the vet doing the procedures, doing the OPUs. I couldn't really be farther away from that in my current role at Ova or in my transitioning role into managing a dude ranch.
What our panel is going to be sharing with you in a moment here is the best or worst piece of advice that they received along their journeys, and how that changed the way that they approach their own challenges and decisions and experiences. And so, Chelsea, you got the mic.
So I think I am going to go with the best advice. My uncle actually shared this with me last summer, I think it was, and it really resonated. The quote is, if you're careful enough, nothing bad or good will ever happen. And I think that's so important because I think a lot of us try so hard to not have anything bad happen. And a lot of times we're successful at that. Like, if you're careful enough, nothing bad will happen. But if you're not going out on a limb or making changes or getting in spots that you are uncomfortable, then we're not growing, we're not changing, we're not allowing the good things to come out of something. So like I said, that really resonated with me, and I think that has allowed my life to take the path that it has. Is if I got bummed that my plan wasn't working exactly how it was going to, the good spot that I'm in a life and a path that I am so happy about would have never came about. And so, yeah, don't try so hard to not let something bad happen that you don't let good happen.
Mine sound a little bit somewhat similar, but are on the topic of only focus on what you can control. Obviously, good advice as well. Have you ever heard the serenity prayer? It's, God grant me the courage to change the things that I can, the serenity to accept the things I cannot, and the wisdom to know the difference. I think that's been, you added what's been, what's the advice that impacts your decisions, and there's tons of good advice that you can share, and everybody's got a whole bunch of great stuff, but that one for me might be the most impactful on my life, is always remembering to, when you're on the farm, there's a lot of things that are completely out of your control, and there's a lot of ways to get stressed out about stuff that in reality you can't change anyway. So I try to keep that front of mind all the time. It doesn't always work, but yeah, trying to keep your focus and put your energy on things that you can't control, and understanding what those things are and what you can't has been really huge for me.
I'd say I probably got two answers there. And the one piece of, fairly good advice that I hear frequently that I will admit I oftentimes roll my eyes at is my grandpa and my father both really like to say, you'll never learn any younger. So if you're going to learn something, you might as well learn it now, because you can't go back in time and learn it younger. And I would say my other piece of advice, which I kind of just told myself when I was like growing up in high school, when you say you want to farm, a lot of people have opinions. And the thing that I just kind of told myself was, ignore the negativity. Like there's good things in ag, and on the farm and working with family. There's good and bad parts to all of it, but ignore the negativity as much as you can.
I'm going to have to keep the mic for a moment here, because I know when we were on our planning call, I think for you, some of this came from the fact that as a young woman graduating from high school, there were people that discouraged you or just asked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about that, and and what it took to overcome and to see your own future in a place where some people didn't encourage you?
I would say a lot of it, started in high school. I had, some things that had happened my freshman year and my sophomore year that inevitably led to me switching schools, which was probably the best thing that I ever did. But when I was at my original high school, when you say you want to farm, like even people that also wanted to go into ag are like, oh, well, how are you going to do that without college? And you really need to go to college because you should have this degree to fall back on in case, that doesn't work out for you. And I'm like, I really don't like school. I don't want to go sit on a campus, and I don't want to sit in a class and listen to somebody else talk at me. I'm not going to get anything from that, listening to just somebody talking to me and tell you this is how you should and shouldn't do things. So it was more of a just telling myself, it doesn't really matter what they think, but of course in the back of your mind, you're always like, oh, well, this person said that, And, I thought this person was like my friend and was here to support me, and then they would say, something like that. And it kind of turned into find the people that are going to support you with whatever you decide to do, whether that's farming or not. You just find your people.
One of the best pieces of advice is that I have is after I graduated college, sitting at my commencement ceremony speech, and I don't know if it was Brian Hefty or Darren Hefty giving the speech, but they said, go out and find the $100 an hour jobs. And at the time, as every college student's like, heck yeah, I want to get a job that pays $100 an hour. But he expounded on that a little bit more. He's like, yeah, there's going to be some jobs that you don't want to do, don't have to do at this moment, but learning to prioritize certain things at certain times is the $100 an hour jobs, whether that be spending time with your family. That's a $100 an hour job that needs to take place. So I got to be reminded on that too. The other piece of advice was that I give to whether it be my sister-in-law or my brother. I say, you are who you hang out with. And what I mean by that is whether it be the different podcasts you listen to, books you read, what do you surround yourself with? Who's in your corner? Who are you bouncing ideas off of? Just make sure that they are the same people that you want to be or you look up to be, and have those same values that you cherish and are important to you. So those are my two good pieces.
So well spoken, so authentic, and I think everyone in the room here is learning from the four of you up here today, and not just learning from your insights, but really learning about just, once again, how bright the future is with these leaders in our industry that are carrying us forward. And, we've been talking about advice, and these are the words of wisdom. Others have spoken into you, but my next question for you is, what's the advice that you would give your younger self? Especially when it comes to opportunities that might come your way. And some of you have been on quite some adventures in your years already. And so what is that best advice that you would give your younger self? And how has it shaped you?
Have patience. At that time, I wanted to come back to the farm. I wanted to be involved right out of school. But I needed to be told that, hey, go work for somebody else, go have a couple other experiences, and then if you want to, then you can come back. But learning to have the patience to stick the course, it'll work out if it's in God's plan. I still need to remind myself of that every day, not to get ahead of myself, but understanding patience.
If I had to look back on my middle school, early high school self, I would tell myself, don't hang out with those people. Because when you're in middle school and high school, you do stupid things and you hang out with people that you think are in your corner, and you come to find out that they're not, and you might get yourself into some situations that you really don't want to be in. And those situations have made me who I am, but I also probably would have been a better person for saying no in middle school and high school. But you learn from experience, I guess. There's going to be challenges. You just have to figure out how to work through them and, lean on your family. I was not very good about opening up to my family my freshman and sophomore year of high school. I had some things going on where I was not, mentally in a place to be taking negative input on anything or anybody's input on anything, really. And I wish I would have opened up a little bit more and leaned on my family a little more, and I probably would have been better for it. But now I lean on my mom and dad a lot for most of my problems. I try to keep it, close in the family, and I have a really small, tight friend circle where those people are the people you lean on because, like I said earlier, you have to find your people, and sometimes that's not that many people that you talk to every day, and I'm okay with that.
Thank you for that honesty, Eva. And then how about you? What would you tell younger Emmett?
I think there's a time and a place in everybody's life that sometimes you should be saying yes more, and other times you need to say no more to things. But looking back on some of the really cool opportunities I had, all came from saying yes to things that I maybe didn't want to do or maybe were out of my comfort zone. And I would even say to do more of that. When I was younger, I was probably a little bit too shy and reserved. But yeah, the best experiences I ever had were doing things that were uncomfortable, which no surprise, right? But yeah, one of the biggest yeses for me was it was kind of known by me that expected that I left the farm for a while. Like I touched on, I went to North Dakota. It was kind of expected that I would go work off the farm for a while before coming back. And before then I hadn't went. That was extremely crazy for me. I was leaving home for a year and moving states away, but ended up being one of the coolest things I've ever done in my life. I met so many cool people and got to see this whole other side of the industry that I never never knew about coming from dairy, and I would highly recommend that to anybody that is in a position to do it. The farm wasn't going anywhere, and I was fortunate enough to be able to leave and come back, and I was highly recommend to anybody in a similar position.
You just talked a little bit about what did you end up doing in that year, and also how have you used what you learned in North Dakota, taking it back to the dairy?
So I worked it was called Blackleg Ranch. They have about 20,000 acres. They run beef and buffalo. They do custom grazing, and they do all sorts of different stuff. They got a hunting outfit. They got a brewery. They do weddings on site. They're kind of the whole deal. So I worked more just in the ranching things. My girlfriend moved out there with me. We lived there for just about a year, taking care of just ranching and doing a whole bunch of cool stuff with buffalo and beef. But it's a different world out there, and something that I'll always be grateful for to get to spend that time out there. Coming back to the farm, I learned that one of the biggest things I learned was it was myself and it was my boss, and we that's who took care of the cows and did all the ranching stuff. So you're kind of on your own quite a bit. And leaving the farm, there's always somebody to call, right? There's always, I can call Dad, I can call, one of our guys, I can call anybody and say, hey, I can't figure this out, come help me. And one thing I really learned out there is there's nobody to call. You might be on a four-wheeler 8 miles from the nearest nothing, and you just got to make it work. So that was one thing I really, you're not in a position to ask for help. So that was one of the biggest things that I got better at out there.
So was there ever a moment where you're like, man, why did I say yes to this, right?
Yeah, lots of bad stuff and lots of good stuff too. There was one, we had a crazy snow this past weekend. We had the North Dakota's record snowfall year, the year I was out there. So we had snow drifts on the road that I lived on that were taller than the ditches. The snow in the ditches was taller than my pickup truck. So there was a lot of miserable times, but in the end, it's funny how you look back, and I don't remember any of the bad stuff. There was a lot of bad, but when I look back now, 3 years removed from it, you only remember the good things.
And Chelsea, how about you? What's the advice you would give to a younger Chelsea?
Oh, a younger Chelsea. I definitely would tell her, don't care what other people think. It doesn't matter what other people think your life should be. Not that I went to school and got a job in the dairy industry because that's what my parents did, and that's what I should do. I enjoyed it. I didn't really ever think I'd do anything different, but I definitely cared more about what people thought I should do when I was younger, and I think a lot of us probably did. But when I moved to Montana, I had left a relationship. I had quit a really good job, and I moved out there and I knew no one. I really had no idea what I was doing. My second summer out there, I worked for an outfitter, and so we were doing backcountry horseback and mule packing trips, and I'd never even seen a mule in real life before I got to Montana. And our first trip, I was sent out with 8 mules, and I had no idea what I was doing, and I was just winging it. And a lot of people thought I was crazy. My parents thought I was a little bit crazy. I'm extraordinarily fortunate that they have always been very supportive of all of my wild and crazy ideas and dreams. My parents came out to visit me that summer, and I was living in a wall tent. I had no home. I was living in a wall tent and just under the stars on trips. Dad went back home and told all my friends, my daughter is living like a combination of a contestant in Survivor and a homeless person. So, and like younger me would have cared about that, because like that's not, I don't know, like something that I would have seen for myself, but it was a blast. I love it. I still love it. But yeah, just don't care what other people think. Do what makes you happy. Don't stay in a job that you hate. Don't stay in a relationship that isn't good for you. Don't be around people that aren't good for your well-being, your career. Like, just do what's best for you.
And Chelsea, as you talk about that experience, but really put yourself out there and what you learned about yourself, right, when you were doing that stuff, and that's kind of Montana. We have life experiences that build us and shape us. and we all have educational experiences, right? And so I'm going to have you keep the mic for this one. Can you just balance out for me, and for our group today, like, what were some of the key takeaways from your life experiences versus your educational experiences? And what have you learned that you really value from both of those things?
Yeah, so education-wise, I have my master's in dairy reproduction. Basically, I got done my undergrad. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I did well enough in school that I could get into grad school. And so instead of getting a real person, big girl job, I went to grad school. I would not suggest going to grad school for that reason. I did fine in it. I liked research. I enjoyed what I was doing. I probably wouldn't do it again. When I was done that and looking for a job, I was underqualified for a lot of the jobs I thought would be cool and interesting because I either needed my PhD or DVM, or I was overqualified for a lot of the other jobs that people didn't want to pay me what I maybe should get with a master's. And so I would definitely highly suggest whatever level of education it is, whether it's even going to college at all, learning from the dairy and from your own mistakes and things that happen there, going to a trade school, really put some thought into, like, what am I going to get out of this education, and is it worth the time, the money, all of that. But my life experiences when I was riding horses 30 miles in the backcountry, doing nothing with my master's, I definitely questioned my life decisions a little bit. But those life lessons, I worked with guests. We would have guests come out for the week, and we were stuck with them in the backcountry. And so I got a lot better at being able to really connect with strangers and be able to talk to people from different backgrounds, different interests, just be able to connect better with all sorts of different people. And I do think that has helped me coming back into a sales role. So I would just say never discredit anything in your life experiences. You're always going to be learning something, even if it doesn't necessarily at the time feel like it meshes exactly with what you think it should be doing for you.
Thank you for elaborating on that. And I think this is one of those take-homes, especially for young people that might be at a crossroads of whether or not they want to pursue a higher education or an advanced degree, but also valuing just the real-world experience that you get. And what did that teach you too, that backcountry experience about customer service and taking care of people that you've used in your role at Ova even?
Yeah, I think it taught me so many things, but that it's really not that difficult to connect with people and to help people enjoy their experiences and have like a good outcome with it. I think just being a kind, honest human can really pretty much get you anything you need. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You don't have to be the best at what you're doing. Being able to say, I don't know, but also being able to figure it out, kind of just rolling with the punches and being able to just know that everybody is so different, and to approach each of those people differently is really important. And enjoying the differences of those people, I think too, that was a lot of fun when I was working for the outfit, that everybody had different backgrounds and different stories, and enjoying those stories. I think being able to get to know people outside of, just like Jacob was saying, like you knew more about your employees and kind of like where they came from helps you understand kind of like what they want to get out of something too.
All right, and let's hear from you. Anything that you'd like to elaborate on, those educational versus real life experience that you had, and how do you might package that into a message to share with others?
Yeah, so like I said, I went to a 2-year tech school. I don't think I remember one single thing from any of that, not unlike many other people from college. But you learn real life stuff by going to college. You don't need to get into the should you or should you not go to college thing, but even if you go to school and you do something completely different, you still learned how to live on your own. You learned how to do things. It was probably a lot of fun. And so I definitely don't regret doing it. But like I said, I went to that dairy consortium after, and I probably learned more in 2 months than I did in 2 years at college, because it was all very specific and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, college it teaches you a lot more than what's in the books. So real life, the biggest thing that I've learned to this day that has helped me the most is the importance of a good attitude. I think a smile and a positive attitude is more important than pretty much most other things, and it gets discredited a lot. I think people don't realize how much smiling to somebody, saying good morning, how much that's noticed and appreciated. There's a guy that works for us, and if you were to ask me, what do you think about this guy, the very first thing that comes to my mind is he's always happy, he's always smiling, he always says good morning. It gets noticed way more than people believe, and there's nothing bad that comes from trying to see the good in things. So that would be my takeaway of the biggest thing that I've learned in my whole life, I would think, is or what I credit to anything good that I've done is having a good attitude always, and trying to see the good in stuff.
Ella, how about you?
I would say, so far for what life advice is, I would say, learn how money works, because those taxes will knock you on your butt. And farm advice, learn how to drench a cow properly. That's always a good learning experience. One of the first ones are like, hey, hold this cow's head still, make sure this is happening in the right spot, and make sure you do this, and don't do it too fast, and don't do it too slow, and don't let it move. Okay. I think that was kind of the face when I did that the first time, is my grandpa's like, okay, do this, make sure you can feel it, do this, don't do it too fast. And I stood there with my face kind of, are you sure you want me to do this? Yep, you need to learn. Okay. That was pretty much that.
All right, and Jacob, how about you?
A lot of good answers, and I'll resonate with them. Yeah, so I have a 4-year degree in dairy science. Do I use that every day? No. But am I glad that I got the education and learned the things? Absolutely. I think Emmett said it really well. You do a lot of growing up at college. That's so true, living on your own. I can kind of resonate with Chelsea a little bit too, as once I was about to graduate, I didn't know, okay, do I want to get my graduate degree, master's, so on and so forth. And then I interviewed with a couple people, and my employer, Frank, he said, I explained a little bit of the situation that I was in, where do I want to go, I really enjoy learning. And he said, well, Jacob, I'll teach you anything and everything you want to know. And I really respected that answer, and I think that goes to show every day is like, if you go forward with a learning attitude and wanting to know more and invest resources into yourself, it's only going to help you further. The other half of it is, looking as myself as a new parent, I think we can do so much teaching to our kids, or to my son Merritt. I want to teach him how money works, the business of farming and day-to-day life, and going back to that spiritual growth, helping him be a better person and navigate through this world too. So always in the learning mode.
Any questions that you have for these four?
I have one.
Yeah.
So I think we're doing a great job showing everyone that you guys are soaking everything in and learning and taking things. What piece of advice would you share for someone maybe in like your folks' generation on what it takes to be successful working with someone your age? Like going back to the farm, what's one thing that you would tell your folks if you could going on how to be successful and train you to take over?
I got it. I would say just slow down and talk to me. Like, slow down, tell me what I need to do, tell me how something, like, slow down, talk to me, and then give me the freedom to go do it. And another thing, like with my grandpa, is don't expect me to know everything because I grew up in it. Like, there's still more that I need to learn. Like, slow down, talk me through it. Learn with me. Like, learn how to teach me by teaching me. Just like I'm learning how to deal with cows by dealing with cows.
The biggest one is just teach the why. I don't think that's special for any age maybe, but I'm learning, to dealing with employees, dealing with people, and even just learning myself. When somebody knows the why and the real why and what this decision affects and what this mistake might affect, I think that expedites things a lot faster, and it makes people care more too. In my world of calves, right? When you tube a calf wrong, and then you can see, this is what happens, and this is what our death rate is, and yeah, all this happened just because of one little bit of milk that got in their lungs. So it's when you teach the why and the downstream effects of things, I think that's a big one.
All right, Chelsea, do you have a response for this one?
I probably, I guess, would play devil's advocate maybe a little bit here. Like, these guys all came back to their family dairy. And this is like not my experience, but I think for our parents' generation, don't assume that your kids want to come back to the farm, and don't, I guess, let it blow up your family if they don't. Everyone has their own path, and any other business or career that if our parents grew up in an IT job, then they wouldn't necessarily expect us to go into that just because that's what they spent their career building that for themselves. And that's easy for me to say, not having a dairy to go back to. But just be understanding that everybody has different dreams, different desires, and it might be coming back to the dairy, but just be open to anything.
Thank you, Chelsea. So valuable. Jacob, you've been contemplating this.
No, and I really don't have much. They said it really well. Yeah, they're well qualified to be on the better answer than I am. So thanks guys.
Other questions from our audience?
What was something that you guys do on your farm or at some of those jobs to kind of as a team building? Because at the end of the day, on a farm, as much as we have our own roles, it's still good to make sure as a team we're all working towards the same goal. Is there anything you guys do that you're this is a really good way to make sure that we're all on the same page and kind of having that team building, I guess? Is there anything you guys have seen or done?
So when I was in nutrition consulting, then one of the farms, they had monthly meetings, or somebody would do all the cooking, whatever, and that was very intentional, and it's a lot of work, to be honest, but I think just in the day-to-day stuff, showing up for your employees, being there for them, just caring about them, they're human beings just as much as we are, and when they're valued at work and you ask them questions about their lives, that goes so far with them. That helps build the team.
Usually on a Monday at the beginning of the week, and we sit down and we say, okay, here's what we want to try to get done for the week. And sometimes I go, oh yeah, okay, we have a plan for the week. And sometimes I walk out and I think, what did we just talk about? So we probably could do better with that, but typically we just try to get on the same page because we are not very good at communicating with each other. And it's seen, my mom is nodding her head because she says that she thinks that we're very bad at communicating, and we are, but at the same time, we always seem to know where everybody's at. Even if we don't come together and come up with a group plan, we always know, oh, yep, Grandpa's over there changing light bulbs, and Dad's over there fixing on a skid loader, and I'm doing this or that. And we always seem to know where everybody's at, even though we don't necessarily have a plan. But we definitely need to do better with our making a plan.
Yeah, both good answers. I think Jacob especially nailed it with just being personable. and you yourself even being a little bit more vulnerable with talking about, or the closer your team can be, the better, right? So if you can talk about what you're you got different guys in different departments, and what are you struggling with, and what are what's wrong here and there, and we do weekly team meetings as well that I think are really big on every Thursday, no matter what. We try to make it work. But nothing. That's a work in progress for everybody. I think I try to. It's a continued work in progress that you'll never master. You'll never get it perfect. But trying's the important part.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a whole lot to add. I think leading by example is really important. If you are a hardworking, honest person, then your teammates, your employees, your family, like everyone's gonna use that and build on that. And toxic work environments are really easy to kind of like fall into, and so just kind of staying on top of that.
All right. Well, I have one last wrap-up question for you, and I know a few of you listened to the Uplevel Dairy Podcast before, so I'm going to ask you one of my favorite questions to wrap up the podcast with. So maybe some of you feel it coming. I didn't warn you about this one. But as we close out today, we've talked a lot about your experiences and the things that you have gained to help you grow to where you're at and where you're headed. My final question for you, in the time that we have these rising leaders on stage with us today, is this: what is your next up level? What's that next area of your life, personally, professionally, that you're looking to take to the next level? Chelsea, you got the mic. You want to start?
Yeah, I guess for me, it's the Dude Ranch. Really diving into unknown territory, and hopefully gonna make that work out. And not going back to a family dairy, but I am going to be working with family for the first time. So I'm very, very excited about it, and hopefully gonna up-level that.
Awesome. And if someone wants to find out more about the ranch, where can they find out about it?
It's called Deep Canyon Guest Ranch, and it's in Choteau, Montana. It's very, very beautiful. Even if you don't come to the ranch, the Rocky Mountain front in Montana is spectacular. Definitely should come out.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, Emmett, what's your next up level?
That's a heck of a question. Maybe a clever spin on it. My next up level's tomorrow. I say all the time I want to get 1% better every day. I don't know that there's something really huge, but you keep 1% better every day, and that adds up after a lot of time. One other thing is the custom beef thing. I want to see where that's fairly new yet. So something tangible is the Normie Lane custom beef side of things. I got something else new in the direct to consumer world coming as well. So that's taken up a little bit of my attention.
And now, and if anyone would like to follow you along and on that journey, where can they follow you and find you?
Yeah, so I've decided to. I struggled with Facebook for a while, or just putting stuff on social media, because in the dairy world, you don't really have anything tangible to sell, and it's tough to take time to do this without having any return, which is selfish and silly, because I always said if you don't tell your story, someone else is going to. But with the custom beef thing, it's almost given me an excuse to try to sell something. So my advertising is I make kind of funny, informative videos on Facebook. I try to just, you always have your phone on you, make videos every day of stuff we're doing on the farm and this and that. So it's proven to be an excellent marketing tool for the beef, and it's a great way to share what we do on the farm as well. So the Facebook is called Normie Lane Custom Beef, and then Instagram is Emmett 4th Gen Farmer. So.
Excellent. Thank you. So you'll have a few new followers in the group today. All right. And Emma, what's your next up level?
I'm going to take the easy answer and say get married. So I guess I'll up-level my relationship and get married in August.
Well, congratulations. That's a big one for the year. And Jacob, round us out.
We as farmers, it's always so seasonal. Wintertime, springtime, summer, and fall. So the next season, as it's 75, 80 degrees this weekend, the next up level is the next growing season, whether that be growing animals, growing plants, crops, and growing our faith and growing our business as well.
Thank you for listening to the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to follow the show, share this episode with your friends in the dairy community, and leave a review. At Uplevel Dairy, we're here to highlight the leaders, the lessons, and the real-world experiences that are shaping the future of our dairy industry. Find more by following us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram for behind-the-scenes content and upcoming guests. And subscribe at upleveldairy.com to get new episodes and our Dairy Insights blogs right in your inbox. I'm Peggy Coffey, and until next time, keep on learning, keep on leading, and keep up-leveling your dairy.